All right, it's Tuesday, June 25th. This is an end of the day SPY recap, and today on the daily chart, we end up with a very slight two-down bar. We took out the low of the previous day, closed a little bit green, but it kind of has the look of another pause bar over the last 3 days, although it could be a reversal bar back to the upside as well. Possibly, we'll find out tomorrow. In terms of expectations, we've been looking at this weekly chart from last week and seeing a potential shooter bar, knowing for that to be confirmed, we got to get a two down week going. And so far, after the first 2 days, we've been trying to go lower, but we haven't quite achieved that two down look yet. So it's possible we're just coming up in this overall uptrend up here, just pausing, and eventually we continue strongly green. That's still the bias to the upside. And now today, after today, we get another potential buy signal developing. To start the week, we had a 3-bar from last week, a 2 down, a 2 up, and that kind of failed to the upside yesterday, and that's why you kind of suspected maybe we're going to be broadening to a lower time frame and held a downward bias. But after the close today, and I'm looking at the price action, we now have another 3-bar with a 2 down, and maybe we get a 2 up, and this all of a sudden, we're right here in terms of green or red on the weekly chart. We're right neutral at the moment. So any move up keeps us green for the week now. Any move down sticks, keeps us or starts to turn this red again, and maybe we get the 2 down week. So that's kind of the context we're monitoring for. And the market's a little, tricky in terms of what it really wants to do here, especially these last 3 days. You can see that they're almost overlapping. So the good news is it's still been trading that is according to the way I look at price action, not too bad. And that's kind of, a positive when you can see price action like this and then not really come out too bad and actually ahead over the last 2 days. So yesterday, as you recall, there was actually a buy signal here that I discussed, and I was able to scale out, set up a no risk trade, and I actually then given my bias to the downside, I was able to buy puts here right about this area, and we had a nice move down. Today, I was biased to the downside. So the very first trade, I took a small loss. I shot a video on that. I was still biased to the downside, and I re-entered here, and I was able to scale out and then exit most of my position here. I kind of got a little lucky in the sense that I had a leave for the afternoon, and I exited all my trade down here, and then it did come all the way back up, which, if you did buy puts up in here, as I described in my video, and you scaled out, as I normally like to do, at the worst, you would have broken even, as it came back up to the rest of the trade, because it had a really nice profit. If my trading today on the SPY, discussed how I bought some puts here initially 527. I took a small loss at 505. I re-entered at 451. And then I scaled out at 515 7 trade, and I exited the rest of the trade at 557. Right near the lows of the day. I think if we look, the options closed at 365. The high of the day was 572. So when I exited here at the market, I kind of got a fill next to the low of the day. But I was exiting, into the target that I think, that kind of protects you a lot of times for these type of reversals. Obviously, if it would have went a lot lower, you're giving up some gains, but in many cases, my scaling out and taking basic gains protects me. And in this case, I happen to get lucky, I think, in the sense that I was exiting at the target here, which was, the lows of the day and then the low of yesterday, and it held there for 2 bars and came all the way back up. So then, once it reversed, at this point, it was the type of day, if you look at that first bar, we couldn't really get moving to the upside at all, given we had multiple attempts, and then we came back down into that first bar's range. We took out the lows of the day, but then, like algorithmic trading often does, if it wants to, hit stops here, then reverse, it comes up and it takes out the high of the day, and then we close kind of up here again, giving us a bit of this green day. So anyway, there is an actionable signal to the upside tomorrow if we, break above the pre-market highs and the first bar high hits higher. If that happens, we want to see if we get to the top of this range. You could see yesterday that was the area that brought in a lot of selling, up in here. So if we start up tomorrow, context is you got to break out of this range. If it doesn't do that, who knows? Maybe we come back down again. Maybe we start lower tomorrow. below the midpoint of today, and then get our 2 down week developing, on a Wednesday type of thing, midweek, and we head lower. Anything's still possible, but it's getting a little tricky here in terms of being able to really have expectations now after as 2 days have come and gone. I'm not as strongly biased to the downside, although I still can definitely see it happening. And the upside at some exhaustion, well, I'd say I'm a little more biased maybe to the upside now, given we're in this uptrend. We've had, various red days of pullbacks. This was a red. Both these reds were 3 bars, meaning they didn't have to follow through lower, and now we are getting that reversal look back up. So if we start up with a 2 up tomorrow, I guess I'll have to shift my bias back towards, the next targets up here of, first this high here. If we get through there, then the high of last week, and maybe this uptrend is just green, green, green. You had some 2 weeks of pausing here in red, but maybe this type of pausing is just more exhaustion risk with the selling tail and a little consolidation here, and maybe we just stay green going forward. I have talked about how some of the best trades in this environment are still going to be back to the upside until the monthly chart really reverses and turns red. So, in this case, I have to just go with price action and say that there is an actionable signal to the upside tomorrow. So perhaps that's all the pullback we were going to get. And as the week goes on more and more, then, it becomes less and less likely this shooter bar is going to fall through to the downside. But we still have to cross through the midpoint of that selling tail, like I said. So I just want to see if we head up tomorrow, we got to take that out. And it has to kind of be pretty convincing, to be comfortable that we're heading higher. If we still fail up here, we could still head lower. So as always, we're just going to have to use the 15-minute price action, the opening price range, the first bar, the way I look at, the first push of the day, second push of the day. That's going to guide us as to what's really unfolding here in this 3-day range. You still have a little bit of the bias is kind of up in the big picture, but there's still the potential for a deeper pullback if this whole thing doesn't want to really gain any, momentum back to the upside. So let's see what happens. But so far, the overall trading approach that of using that first bar and the breakout and kind of knowing what some of your key levels are so far, that hasn't hurt at all if you're going to trade the SPY this week. And there's been other good stocks to trade. I mean, I could see here Nvidia was a good buy today to the upside if you wanted to play that one, and then there were stocks like Apple that just didn't go anywhere. So it was kind of a mixed day overall, and I can show you other stocks that actually moved lower on the day, but there were some good buys as well. So even Coinbase, which I watch and I wasn't trading, if you wanted to buy that one here above the midpoint of the prior day, above the pre-market range, that you can see had 2 nice pushes up all day. So there was definitely stocks moving up and other stocks not really doing as well, and it's a little mixed, but maybe the bias has turned back to the upside. So let opening price action and and everything else lead us tomorrow to where things go. But there is an actionable signal to the upside now, and I want to see that get above the high here if it starts up. And if it can't start up, I'm still going to try that downside here and see if that weekly chart might want to just be holding here for 2 days and eventually move lower by the end of the week. So that's kind of a recap for today, Tuesday, June 25th.